In my family, we had certain things going on that my parents didn't want people to know. And I learned that sometimes you need to lie to make Jesus look good. Well, at least that's what we were taught. And that's just not true. Jesus, I think, has proven he can take care of himself. So there's no need to lie or distort if what we see is the real church, if the image is a reflection of what a church ought to be. From New Life Ministries, this is Going Deeper with Stephen Arterburn. I'm Stephen Arterburn. And Going Deeper is all about taking the tough issues, the hard issues of life, looking a little bit deeper inside so that we can gain some insight into our lives. Hi, welcome to Going Deeper. Steve Arterburn here. We've been talking about toxic faith, where the faith gets poisoned. Where faith is poisoned, Jesus is a side issue. The character of Jesus isn't really modeled in a toxic faith system. And of course, that shows you it's really a mess. In our next episode after this, I'm going to talk to you about how does a person get involved in a toxic faith system? What's the foundation of it? Because it really makes sense when you start to think about how people are recruited in or become members in a toxic church. Well, we've been through the first 5 rules. I'll review them for you. The leader must be in control of every aspect of the organization at all times. Number 2, when problems arise, immediately find a guilty party to blame and blame them. Don't make mistakes. Never point out the reality of a situation, and never express your feelings unless they're positive. Well, number 6 is this one. Don't ask questions, especially if they're tough ones. So what the toxic faith leader wants, he wants people to go along with what he thinks is important for them to go along with. And so if you're questioning what's happening here, then obviously you're not with the program and you have to be dealt with. Because loyalty means not asking when it's obvious something's not right. Something needs to be dealt with. Something needs to be questioned. And so don't do that in the toxic faith system, or you'll become an outcast. People won't want you around because the main guy won't want you around. And then number 7, don't do anything outside of your role. So everybody's role is to support the system. There are those whose role it is to literally perpetuate the toxicity, to hold the minister up, to keep him in place, to facilitate whatever he wants facilitating. There's another role of the enabler that just lets it all happen. You just go along with it. Don't say anything. Don't do anything. But that's your role. It's not your role to question. And then there's the role of all the sheep. It's just your job as the common folk to follow everything that's being set up at the top of the organization. And remember, in a toxic system, everything down here exists to hold up this up here. In a real church, everything that goes on up here is there to minister to the people down there. So it's really important if you see some system and people are locked into a role and they're not free to move outside that role, then it's not healthy. Okay, and then number 8, don't trust anyone. You are told that it's us versus them. And you must not trust anybody with your truth or what you think or what you feel, because everybody is an untrustworthy enemy of the church. And so that keeps it going because nobody's talking outside of everything that's going on inside. And it's really sad to see people that are in this system, in trouble, needing to get out, but they don't know how to do it. They're not talking to anybody because they don't trust anybody to say, hey, I've got some doubts. Maybe this isn't the right place for me to be. Maybe things that are going on here aren't exactly great. So if I am forced to do this on my own, I may never do it. If I don't trust anybody, I may not even trust myself to get it done. Now, then we come to number 9. Nothing is more important than giving money to the organization. So here's what will happen. You'll be loved right on in. You'll feel like you belong to this place. And then you're going to be asked to be part of the financial support of this ministry. Not a tenth of your money or 15%, but a huge chunk of your money. And if you've got some things in saving or you've invested some things, you're probably going to become convinced that you need to sell it, get rid of it, and give whatever it is that you have to the church. And what a sad thing, because you're just being manipulated. And we'll talk about next time why it is that you are willing to be manipulated. And then number 10, at all costs, keep the image of the organization up. It needs to be, all of our efforts is to support the image here. In my family, we had certain things going on that my parents didn't want people to know. And I learned that sometimes you need to lie to make Jesus look good. Well, at least that's what we were taught. And that's just not true. Jesus, I think, has proven he can take care of himself. So there's no need to lie or distort if what we see is the real church. If the image is a reflection of what a church ought to be. The church is the bride of Christ. And these folks that are members of that church are part of Christ's life. He died for them and the church. And so somebody coming along thinking that the function of the church and the ministry of the church is less important than the image of the church goes against everything that Christ stood for when he was on earth. And so it's important that we not get locked in, fooled into believing that this image here, it is the all-important thing that must be upheld. So those are 10 rules. I call them rules, but they're kind of 10 things to look for if you're wondering if you're in a healthy church or not. Where a healthy church exists, people are healthy. They're questioning things. They're expressing doubts about things. They're leading out of strength. They're not beaten down by a pastor or beaten down by a system. It's a really healthy place. And you feel it and you want to belong to it. Not out of pressure, not out of being love-bombed in some superficial way. You just know it's the place for me because God is honored and truth is taught here. All right, when we get back together, we'll continue our series on toxic faith. I'm going to talk to you next time about the foundation that's laid and who it is that's vulnerable to or susceptible to be in a toxic faith system. In the meantime, if you would email me to stevesocial@newlife.com, I will send you for free a Restoration Study Bible. It's a great addition to your library, a great way to study Scripture, a wonderful devotional Bible, all right there, and it's free to you. I'll send it to you. Just send me your address, stevesocial@newlife.com. See you next time when we go deeper. Thank you for joining me for Going Deeper. I hope something I've said may have helped just a little bit. If you have a question you'd like me to answer or comment, just email me at stevesocial@newlife.com. I'll see you next time.
If you want to support Going Deeper with Stephen Arterburn, be sure to subscribe so you never miss another episode. And if you know someone who would benefit from this episode, be sure to share it with them. See you on the next Going Deeper with Stephen Arterburn from New Life Ministries.